to the SA Sports Show. Time to talk baseball.
Well, the Giants, mate, the Giants.
And we can happily say, reigning premiers.
After 43 years. After
Reigning
43
premiers.
years. Wasn't that sensational?
It was sensational. Joining us in the program is the General Manager of the Adelaide Giants, Nathan Davison. Nathan, nice to see you, mate. And we can say closing picture.
The closer,
He
that's what we call him.
He was the closer in the final. Todd Steensel, well done, mate. Welcome to the program, you guys. And it must be a very happy man right now, mate, although maybe a bit apprehensive now. It's a different ball game now. The 43 years where the reigning premiers, they're going to come at you now.
Yeah, it's a conversation that we've never had. So to be the defending champs and how to defend our title and own that is an interesting discussion, but it's fun. Attention turned pretty quickly to this year after last February when we got it done. And I think we've started to build a roster. They start arriving in the next few weeks that'll be competitive right from the start. But you know, all the other teams are getting better also, right?
Exactly right, yeah.
Let's go back to February. It was obviously it was huge for South Australia, and obviously for the Giants it was 43 years. Todd, you're the closer, so obviously they've brought you in to basically win the game. Full house at West Beach for the grand final. You must have nerves of steel. Wow. And congratulations.
Thank you. It sounds a bit silly, but very cliche, but I've dreamt about this moment for so long that I've visualized it so many times in my head that when I got out there, it felt like I'd lived the moment so many times. So I probably wasn't as nervous as many people thought I would be.
Yeah. Because dreaming it's one thing, but actually going onto the pitch and saying, "Well, I've got to smack it straight down towards the keeper there, and hopefully no one hits it."
Yeah, exactly. It's called dreams for a reason. So it was nice to finally make it a reality.
13 years it took you.
Yeah, chasing that for 13 years, so I'm going to my first pre-season as a reigning champion, which is nice to say.
But to strike out the last two batters, bang, bang, that's nerves of steel. In a game like that, I know we're blowing your trumpet here a little bit, mate, but to step on the mound and knock out the last two to win the game, mate, that's what you do dream about.
Exactly. You always want, as a closing pitcher, you want the ball at the end of the game, and to be in that situation and to do it for this city was a pretty big moment for me personally.
Because you've been around a bit too as well. You've played a bit. Tell us about your journey a bit.
It started when I was 17. I signed a professional contract with the Philadelphia Phillies. Played in their minor league system for 2 years. They released me, and I signed with the Minnesota Twins. I was there for 1 year, then they released me. Ended up playing 1 year in Holland. Didn't go back in 2013, and then started throwing hard. And then the Minnesota Twins decided they wanted to bring me back, so I signed with the Twins again. Was with the Twins for 5 years. I had a really fun time there. I won a few championships. Then they released me. I signed with the Padres. Then they released me. And I played a little bit indie ball. Ended up in Mexico, Venezuela. Played in France last year.
Wow. Yeah.
And I just finished another year in the US this year.
Yeah. Nathan, no plans on releasing him, mate? There's been
it sounds like that's the way it goes, doesn't it? Yeah. Well, it'll come to an end some stage, but he's still, as he said, his career changed trajectory, right? He wasn't as hard at throwing when he was younger, and he found a way to throw harder, and that just changed the way that he performed and that people looked at him. And in recruiting him, when we got him from Sydney 3 or 4 years ago now, is we knew him as a hard-throwing right-handed pitcher, and then all the other things that we now know that he brings to the table, in particular that preparation, the visualisation to get in there, and we love it. If he's got the ball, it means we're in a good place.
Yeah. So what have we done with the squad now, mate, compared to last year's grand final winners, premiers? We added, we lost players. Where are we at?
It's a really interesting question because our turnover of players on our roster is about 60% per year. So
why is it so high?
Because it's half are Australian and a half are imported. And the imported players that come our direction, because the affiliation we have with the Philadelphia Phillies, they send us 7 or 8 minor league players, is unless you're getting better and improving and on the way to the major leagues, then you're not playing anymore. So they send us guys that are sort of just started climbing the ladder. So we give them an opportunity, and that was Todd 10 or 11 years ago when he first signed with those pro teams, and now he's got to the veteran stage, but still a competitive veteran on our team. So we've got 7 or 8 from the Philadelphia Phillies. We've got one from the Cubs. We've actually got moved into the Asian markets. We've got a couple of Japanese players this year, as well as a couple of Korean players that we're hoping to sign up from their major leagues that are going to come and play here. So the standard of our entire competition has lifted. The standard of the player on our team have lifted. So how we look for players has changed as well in terms of the standard and stature of the player that we recruit.
And what about development in baseball here in South Australia? I mean, I drive down Tapper's Hill Road most Saturday mornings and Sundays, and I just see kids everywhere playing baseball. It was fantastic. So obviously, yes, that's great to have all those imports, but obviously we've got so much talent coming through the system as well.
And it's definitely coincident with having an Australian Baseball League at the top end of that pathway.
Yeah.
So when we had it in the old days, when some of us old blokes were playing, we had more professional athletes. The league went away for 10 years, we had less professional athletes. The league picked up again in 2010, and now again we've got more professional athletes and more players in college, up to 250 Australian athletes in the college system in the US, getting better, getting an education, coming back and wanting to play. So, and Adelaide's got a great depth of players now. So the majority of the good ones are 14 to 17. So they're just starting to get into we call it the next generation of players, which makes sense, of course. And they'll start to sort of get a taste of it, get to know the people, deal with people that have been around the game for a long time. Our manager, Chris Adamson's with the Philadelphia Phillies as well in the minor league system. So they just get access and exposure to how you talk about the game, the data analytics they use, and how they're going to get themselves better.
How about your venue, mate? Now it's at West Beach, because it was at North Oval for a long, long time, wasn't it?
Since 1952, Barry.
Wow.
Yeah, so the venue's great when we set it up. It's certainly, I think, in terms of when we got lucky enough to get some funding from the government to set it up in 2016, 7 or 8 years down the track now, it's probably a little bit dated. So we're doing everything and still working with the Premier and the fantastic government of the day to make sure that we can get some more funding access. We've got a women's team now, so we're ticking all the boxes with development, with women, with our team succeeding, that hopefully we can buy in and say that this is something that we can turn into the home of baseball, potentially in the Southern Hemisphere, if we build a good enough stadium here.
That's an interesting one, a women's team. That's interesting. I mean, I see softball's just been included into the Olympic Games
along with baseball,
along with baseball, which is fantastic. And I never thought about. I always thought, okay, if the women wanted to play baseball, they play softball.
That's a really strange dynamic. Is that softball's internationally at that level classed as the female arm of our sport?
Yeah.
Anywhere else, it's actually not the case. The games are almost different in terms of how they're played, and we've now got a women's baseball competition that stands alone.
Okay. Is that worldwide? I mean, because you think of say Japan, and they have such strong softball teams in the women. Are they also carrying a women's baseball team as well?
Yeah, Japan in particular. In the US, you sort of run out of avenues to keep playing, but Japan and the Asian countries in particular do, and we're strong too. We've got athletes that we grab from any different walk of life, but softball are a lot of them because they're similar skills, but the softball, baseball relationship at that international level is sort of the men's and women's part of the game, which of course none of the women's baseballers like that, because they want to stand alone and be their own sport. But they've certainly gotten better, and we've now got up to 30 teams in South Australia playing women's softball, whereas 5 years ago we had 4. So there's interest there.
There's a growth.
Todd, everybody's got everybody likes to get a scalp, I suppose, a big scalp. You've got a big scalp. The guy, the Otani, is that his name? The
Shohei
Japanese
Otani.
Supposed to be he's rated, I think, one of the best players in the world. And you knocked him over at the World Games, which was, that must be a bit of a feather in the cap. Something you can say, hey, I knocked him over. Like getting Bradman out.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
It was pretty exciting. I didn't really think about it too much at the time when it happened, but after the game ended, I got to sit down and I was like, wow, that was pretty cool. You know, one day when I'm 50 years old, hanging out at a pub, having a beer, and I see Shohei Otani on TV, I'm like, you guys won't believe this, but one time I was better than him.
He's my bunny.
Yeah, I got him once.
That's my bunny. That boy there is my bunny.
And you must be happy now to have your feet in the turf of Adelaide. I mean, you've lived in, obviously, Sydney, you've been all around the world. To come to Adelaide must be, something pretty special as well.
I mean, I love Adelaide. It's really turned into a home for me.
Yeah.
Especially the Giants. The Giants it's a cliche. They're like a family. It's really great to see all these guys after a few months off. But I love coming back to Adelaide each year, and hopefully continues for a few more years to come.
And we hope so too, mate. Thanks for
Yeah.
coming in today. Really appreciate
No
it.
worries.
Nathan, thank you, mate. November 17, we're off.
Yep.
It's defence time. Now it's a totally different ball game for the
Absolutely.
boys, but we're looking forward to the season, mate. We hope we can do it again. That would be really nice. But good luck, mate. And thanks very much for joining us today on the SA Sports Show.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
We'll be back with more in just a moment.